Three wise men. That's what today is about, isn't it? We have a lot of stuff surrounding the three wise men. I'm going to say stuff in the very most sarcastical way I can say it. Because there's been a lot of misinformation about these three wise men, these magi. So I think we should deal with the elephant in the room. What's the deal with the three wise men, or the magi? What's not right about them? Because we've been getting it wrong, quite honestly. First of all, we call them kings. There's really no assurance that they were kings of anything. We called them kings primarily because they brought gold. And gold was usually something that the kings had in their coffers, not peasants or merchants even. So we gave them the moniker of king. Probably they were more like scholars or astrologers instead of kings. It's not accurate to say that there were even three of them. We only say that there were three of them. We don't even know how many because of the gifts that they brought. Gold, frankincense or incense, and myrrh. Perhaps there were 20 or 50 or 2. We just simply don't know. The only thing we know is they were considered wise, magi, scholars. I love how all of our manger scenes that we've had on the windows for the last 5-6 weeks, I think it's been, all of them come with wise men. And we so clearly and so effortlessly put them into all of our Christmas celebrations. But the fact remains, folks, they weren't at the manger. They were nowhere to be found on that first Christmas morn. If we truly read carefully Matthew's description of the Epiphany, we find that they came to a house, not a manger. In fact, if we read even further from our lectionary reading today, we discover that when Herod finds out, when the star appeared, when they left, he does the math and automatically asks that all children 2 and under, all male children 2 and under, would be killed, murdered, for fear of his throne being usurped. So that tells us that this Christ child could be a toddler by the time the wise men even show up on scene. We also get this strange sense that they came on camels and, made it such a big production. Again, not even listed. There's so many things about these three wise men that we get wrong. That being said, let's look at what we do know from Matthew's account about them. First, Matthew tells us that they were seeking truth and wisdom. They were seekers. I love that. They were not content with what they already knew about the heavens, about the ways of the world, about what they thought in their religion and their religious life. They weren't content with that. They thought and they believed there had to be more to life. And not only that, they were open to God's revelation. They were seeking truth and wisdom. Oh, that we were all magi. We know, too, that they set forth in faith, not knowing what was around the next bend or the next corner. but they were willing to take a personal risk. Risk of life, risk of family, risk of losing the gold, the frankincense, and the myrrh. They took risk in order to have a personal relationship with this divine presence on earth. Now, if you contrast that with King Herod didn't want a personal relationship with this new king, new presence of God on earth. He told them that when you find him, let me know, that I may go and worship him. That was code for saying that I can go and have him killed. He was a threat to Herod. That tells me that in order to have this step forth in faith, it has to be a personal and individual thing. You can't have it by proxy. You can't be a person of faith because your parents were. You can't be a person of faith because your friend wills it to be so. It's up to you and you alone to take that step to have a personal relationship with the divine. That personal relationship with Jesus Christ. These magi wanted to know God, not necessarily to know about God. There's the difference. They knew about the divine, but they weren't content with knowing the facts. They wanted to be in a relationship. And that relationship only comes when you look at God in the face and you experience them heart to heart. Heart to heart. We know from Matthew that these magi sought help from others. Literally, as soon as they got into the confines of Jerusalem, they started asking questions. Where was this baby born? They assumed that everybody in Jerusalem knew about it. And so they started asking the Hebrew people where the king was. Well, there's a problem with that, isn't there? Because sometimes the people don't know. Assumptions can be very, very dangerous. And you know what they say about assuming, right? But they assumed that these people from Jerusalem were connected, that they already had a relationship with this divine presence on earth. They assumed they should know where this king was to be located. So they went to help. They went to seek help from them. And we know from Matthew that when they found this divine presence on earth, they accepted this leading and they believed in God. Now, Matthew doesn't really come right out and say that, but I'm making a little inference here because the first thing they did is that they gave. They gave the most precious things, those things that they had dragged across the desert for months. They gave back to God. See, that's what happens when you have a profound experience with the holy. It makes you a person of gratitude. You can't stop saying thank you enough. They accepted God and believed. They even protected the Son of God by going home a different way. They were profoundly changed by the experience that they had in that house in Bethlehem. So what kind of epiphany can we take